Okay, we should be live here momentarily. Just waiting for Amazon to come up. Usually it comes around eventually. There it is. Okay, so we are live. So I'm not sure how long I'm going to go on for today, just because I'm having, as usual, having screen trouble. Looks like it's already started. I can hear. So let's cut back here. I think we are good. Yeah, that's better. It's really bad today, so I'm not sure how long this is going to work for. So just in the chat, let me know when I start going back to the bad zone again, and we'll go from there. I'm just waiting for the fiber optic truck to pull up and start running that cable for us. That will be great. So today I'm going to do a little B-roll because I got in this device from Terramaster. They sent this to the channel free of charge. And when I take this out of the box, it's going to look like a network attached storage device, but it is an external RAID for Thunderbolt 3, as a matter of fact. So we're going to just set it up. I got a couple of SSDs we're going to stick in there. These are the Seagate Iron Wolves. These came in from somebody, I don't remember who, but these are 240 gig NAS SSDs. And these are really well suited for the kinds of applications that you would be using with a NAS, because these are NAS drives. And why they are specific for NAS applications is that they over-provision these so that there's extra cells on the drive. So even though this is a 240 gigabyte drive, or a pair of them, you probably have, I don't know, 300 or 400 gigs on it physically. And what it'll do is it'll retire the cells that are dying with the new ones. So these drives will last longer than a cheaper consumer drive. These, though, are not as expensive as you might think. So I'm looking on Amazon right now. They've got do I got the right one? Yeah, I think like a terabyte one for like 230 bucks. So it's more than what you would pay for a SATA drive normally. But for NAS purposes, it's not bad. And again, you're paying more because there's an over-provisioning, there's more physical cells. And as you know, there's a lot of reads and writes going on with NAS devices. So those are the things that you want to be thinking about when you're putting drives into something that's going to be running all day long. So for specs, which is what I still recommend people use on a NAS device, I'm going to do an overview of my current setup soon. I put in WD red drives, and then on top of that, my NAS in there has an SSD cache. So it'll keep the files that are frequently accessed on the SSD, but all of the other stuff is on the regular spinning drive. So you're able to kind of balance that out a bit. So that's the way that stuff works. So there you go. All right, so why don't we take this out of the box, and I'm going to record everything I'm doing today. And the reason is, let me just set up a folder for that. I'm going to pull B-roll out of what I'm doing here when I shoot the review a little bit later, just to kind of kill two birds with one stone here. So this is Terramaster Thunderbolts. And I've got another one of their products to look at, which I have been meaning to get to for a while now. And they actually are one of the few NAS manufacturers that make a 10 gigabit solution. But and Martin is right, yeah, it's under provisioning. They're provisioning enough extra. I got to get my terms right. But they make a 10 gig NAS, but they're not as feature rich as the Synology stuff is. So I would say by far the Synology stuff is the best from a user standpoint, but they haven't been so good about upping the ante on network speed. So when you buy a Synology NAS, even the brand new ones, they're still only gigabit. And of course now we're looking at multi-gigabit networks becoming a lot more affordable. So just food for thought there. Let me just set up my recording here. And we'll go do a little bit higher bit rate here. Yeah, you know what? Let's go to 32. Okay. Okay, and we will start recording. Okay, perfect. So let's unbox it, and we'll take a look at what's inside. so let's get the box part out first. And in this box here, this little box, we have some stuff. So we got some manuals, and they want you to go to a website. So I don't know if this is managed on a web interface or not. We'll find out. You got some stickers you can label your thing with. Power supply. Now this is a Thunderbolt drive array, but it's really a dock because it has Ethernet, it has USB, so you can use it like a dock. And what's interesting, this is the power supply, by the way. So we have a 12 volt, 7.5 watt power adapter, about 90 watts. This doesn't, though, power the laptop, so you still need to provide a power source for your laptop. Got the Thunderbolt 3 cable here. Let's take a look at that. We need to pull that out of the box because we're going to need to hook it up to the Mac I have down here in a little bit. So there you go. It's actually a nice long cable. Usually these come with shorter cables, so that's good to see. So we have some folks popping in. We have, let me go say hello to everybody that's on the chat room here. And let me pull up our Terramaster screen here as well. So we have Evan Barron is here, Movie Fan is here, Arif Hassan is here, Anthony Biacco is here. Who else we got? Flood of Sins, Ata Kafaf, I hope I got that right. Martin Lasarich and Hard Driver, and Andre is here. Welcome, everybody. I think that's everybody that's popped in so far. So here is the cable. So it's a pretty nice long cable. Usually the ones that I get with these are about that length typically, so it's kind of double what we usually see. Thunderbolt cables are always shorter just because they carry a lot more bandwidth, so they're often shorter. And then we've got some screwdrivers, and they give you all the tools you need also. They're actually good about that. So we have this screwdriver, and then they have a little one here, which I'm guessing is for some of the smaller pieces. And then, of course, you've got all of your screws and stuff, which we're going to need in a second because we're going to have to put some drives into this thing. And then let's pull the unit itself out here. And I should add that this was sent to the channel free of charge from Terramaster, but they are not reviewing what we're doing right now, nor are they approving anything ahead of time, obviously, because we're doing it live. And they have no input into the review that I will do eventually either. All right. Now this is, again, not a NAS. This is a direct attached array for Thunderbolt. Even though it looks like the NAS, like they make NAS boxes that look just like this, same casing and everything, but this is not that. Okay, so let me show you what's on the back of this here so you can see all the different ports. And we have, okay, remember, not a NAS, so this is all working as a dock. So we got a big fan here to keep it cool. There are two USB 3.0 ports here. 3.1, but it's 3.0. So these are the 5 gigabit ports. You have a switch here to move it to set the RAID mode. And I'm going to actually start it as RAID 0. Right now it's set to single, and I'm guessing that means that, I don't know what that means, because JBOD would typically be each drive being its own thing. RAID 0 would combine the storage, RAID 1 will mirror. I don't know what single means, so we'll have to look that up. There's no manual in the box. You get this start guide here, but that's it. So we'll have to play around with that. Gigabit Ethernet, yep, gigabit. You have a display port out, so you can plug a monitor, kind of loop a monitor out. Remember, this is Thunderbolt, so you can go 4K. We'll try that out if we have time. We have the Thunderbolt connection to the PC. Remember, no power delivery, so you're going to have to continue to power your PC. And then you have a Thunderbolt daisy chain here as well. So if you wanted to go 2 displays out with this, you could. You could also chain other ones down the line. That's one of the cool things about Thunderbolt, is that you can chain stuff. So that's how that works. Let me get the camera in a little closer. Oops. On this guy here. So we can start putting the drives in. All right, let me zoom out just a little bit. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. By the way, you can also watch on Amazon if you're curious. This is like a $300 and $330 device. Oh, so it has a sticker here that explains what all this stuff means. So let's take a look at the sticker. Okay, so JBOD, it says, is large mode. So I guess JBOD does combine the disks together. I thought that didn't do that. I thought that was just separate drives. But single means independent disk mode, where you'd have each disk being its own thing. That's the default. JBOD is large mode. RAID 0 is fast mode, where it stripes across. And then RAID 1, of course, is the mirrored scenario. So we're going to try both and see what happens. I always thought JBOD meant single, but I guess I was wrong. So there you go. All right, so let me go find the screwdrivers. But I want to see what the maximum speed is on this, so we're going to set it to RAID 0. And one thing to note on this is that they are only advertising a throughput of 700 megabytes per second, which obviously is much less than what Thunderbolt can handle. But I suspect it's because of the fact that they're using SATA. So that could be why. All right, so what I just did is I turned that switch from single, and now we're going to go to RAID 0, because I want to get the maximum speed out of this thing. And hopefully, it doesn't really click in, so you got to really get it in the right spot there. Okay. So there we go. So now, yeah, so JBOD is just a bunch of disks, which I always thought that meant that if I was in JBOD mode, this would be drive 0 and this would be drive 1. But it looks like single is also saying that on this one, so I am not sure. Okay. So, because I always know that RAID 0, which is what we're going to configure it as, was always combining the space and kind of giving you that aggregate boost there. All right, so the 2.5 inch just fits like this. So let's get that on there. We're just going to screw that in with the included screws. And I'm not sure which screws go with what, but I'm guessing there are 8 of those. Oh, I see. There's different screws depending on the size of the drive you're using. And we're not going to go too crazy with this. I'm just going to get it secured enough that I can put it back in. And did I take the screwdriver out? No, I didn't. But how nice is it that they give you screwdrivers in the box? I think that's really handy. All right. I'm going to have to look that up real quick, because I'm really curious about the differences between JBOD and single. So we're going to look that up in a minute. But first, I need to get this dialed in here. Okay, so that's the first screw. I'm just going to put 2 screws in just to get it secured enough. And we'll get that in there like so. And before I do the other one, I'll just make sure it all fits. Because it does kind of hang out the back, but I think that's how it's supposed to be. Let's see. We'll find out. Yeah, goes right in. So that's that. Yep, we're good. Okay. So that is how it goes. I would imagine because that's where the screws align. So you have it kind of sticking out the end of it there like that. All right, so let's put the other one in. And this drive, these drives I might have used before, so we're probably going to have to format these when we first get things going. That's weird. It's got screws in there already. Oh, there, never mind, wrong one. Okay, just like that. This one actually is the same capacity, but the casing looks a little different. All right, so let's put this one in. Yeah, so this is not, even with an SSD, this one's not going to be terribly fast. I mean, it would have been fast 5 years ago, but they said the max you're going to see out of this in RAID 1 is about 700 megs per second. And I'm just going to look up something real quick if you all don't mind, because I'm just curious what the difference is here between RAID and, or between JBOD and single. So let's look that up. JBOD versus single. So JBOD is the same as single disks. I'm looking at YouTube, Google right now. If you want increased performance past each single drive, so why would they make both of those an option? That's what's bizarre. Let me look it up based on Terramaster's. So that's what I thought, that if you did JBOD, you just had a bunch of disks, and you could have each disk mounted separately. All right, so here's the Terramaster FAQ. I'm pulling this up right now. We're going to get to the bottom of this. So, oops, shoot. Okay, single. Hang on, I'm trying to find it on the page here. Okay. It had a definition there, and I lost it. One second. Let's see. I'm just looking this up. Let me go back here real quick. All right, single disk. Each hard drive is separate, and they display separately on the computer without any correlation between each other. JBOD. All hard drives are combined into a linear disk, single one, and disk space is displayed. So that's how they define it. Isn't that weird? The problem, though, that's not how it's supposed to be. Let me check one other thing here. They have one more thing on there. They have a Facebook post. Each drive is separate, and they display. I got this stupid thing not now. They display separately on the computer without any correlation. JBOD, all drives are combined into a linear disk. So then in Terramaster's definition, JBOD is the same as RAID 0? I got to call them about that. It just seems weird. Because why would you have that as an option? I don't get it. And unless in JBOD you fill up the first disk and then it just rolls over to the second one versus striping like RAID 0 does. Maybe that's what it is. So Lon.TV has a definition. Right, so he says JBOD is referred to two distinct concepts, all disks being independently addressed, no collective properties, right? And that's what Terramaster calls single. Each physical disk with all the logical partitions being mapped to a different logical volume, right, just a bunch of disks. This is like using volumes, So Chris Allegretta's here, welcome. And I got your console. That's on the docket. I got to get that going. So Chris Allegretta let us borrow his new handheld retro gaming emulating console. I forgot the name of it, but it's sitting over there. So we're gonna get that set up later this week or next. Yeah. So I think the way Terramaster defines this is that if you're in JBOD mode, you get the combined space, but it's not striping. So RAID 0 will stripe across the disks and use both at the same time. And maybe what happens here is it's a single logical volume, but as the first drive fills up, it then rolls data over to the second. I'm not sure. But that's not how we're setting this up initially. This is going to be configured initially as RAID 0. Make sure I did that. Yep, RAID 0, because I want to see what the maximum speed will be with two drives on here. Now what should happen, because this is hardware RAID, at least as far as what the documentation reads out, what should happen here is that when I connect it up to this Mac, it should recognize it as a single volume. So we'll see what happens there. That's right, Chris Allegretta did not make the Retroid Pocket 2. He did make Nano, though, so if you ever use Nano, that's Chris Allegretta. He was one of the people that made it happen. And I use Nano all the time. So another cool thing I've been playing with, and I'm going to do a video about this, I have been messing around with Cloudflare and reverse proxies using my Synology, because, as you know, once that fiber optic truck rolls up here, I'm going to have a much better connection. And what I didn't realize up until about 2 weeks ago is that this Comcast Gigabit Pro service gives you not one but two connections. So you get a 2 gigabit symmetrical connection on an SFP connector, And then they also apparently give you a second single gigabit connection over just straight up Ethernet. So what I was planning on doing was creating a little repository just for file transfers between Jake and I, and then I do some like little consulting work here and there. And so if I have files to send people, I've been using WeTransfer and stuff like that. But if I have all this capacity locally with my NAS device, why not just use what's available? So so that's the plan, is to do that. I'm just actually going to connect up the network to it just so we can test. I'll do the network second. Let's get it just going on the drive mode first. And I've got my Mac here. So let's power this thing up. So I've been playing around with this a little bit. Okay, so Tech Guy Coolio, Terramaster is right. JBOD equals fill or span. RAID 0 is stripe. That's the de facto definition. So then what you are speaking of is called IT mode or direct single. So direct single is not spanning. It is two separate drives. JBOD is spanning, and then RAID 0 is striping. Interesting. Yeah, Nick F says he spliced fiber cable in his cable days. That's got to be a very precise kind of skill, right? I mean, it's not something that's easy to do, splicing fiber. So that they will be splicing fiber in here too, apparently, when they get here. So that might be kind of fun. I'm not sure what I can show. I'm hoping I can show how it works, because it'd be kind of fun to watch that. All right, so now we are going to, let me just get my computer do not disturbed. My daughters are at school. It's so weird to have the kids out of the house after all this time. So one kid has to get picked up at 2:30, and the other kid has to get picked up at 3. So they're in the same school, but pre-kindergarten is done earlier than the other one. All right, so backdrop. And now I gotta find my, I'm just glad that that we're able to get them back to school in some way. But we had 2 holidays, or so she's only in today, and then she's remote the other 2 days. But that's okay. Baby steps. And then next week she's in Monday and Tuesday, and today's like the first full day of school where they're in all day. Okay. Oh, Chris Allegretta recognizes the mug. Yes, this is square art, and my daughter did this one when she was in kindergarten. I have another one from last year. So what happens is the kid it's a PTO fundraiser. So the kid draws something on a piece of paper, and then they turn it into merch, right? So you can choose between your mugs, your T-shirts, all that stuff. Yep. This one actually came out pretty nice. This is the one she did in kindergarten. It's a self-portrait, and it's fun. She did a nice job on it, so I'm really happy with this one. All right, so now I got the Mac connected. I want to make sure I can bring the video in, so let me do that real quick here. So we'll go to NDI and pull in my NDI device, and that's coming up. Perfect. Okay. This display might go in and out. I'm having some trouble. My MacBook is getting older, so we'll see what happens. But I wanted to run video out separately, so we're not dealing with any collisions. Now, I guess what I'm going to do is turn it on, and let's see how much noise it makes. There it goes. Now, what's interesting is I have 2 lights on here. So I've got 2 hard drive lights, which you would expect. And then I've got voltage lights, 20 volt, 15 volt, and 9 volts. I don't know what that means, because I don't think there's enough power budget here to power the laptop, but let's find out. It'd be kind of cool if it did provide power, because that would be a value add. So we're going to plug it into my MacBook Pro. Oh, it is powering the laptop. How about that? Yeah, look at that. Okay, so now, here, check this out. That's cool. So you may not be able to see it very well, but I have a 20 volt light lighting up on here now from the MacBook. So it is getting power. Now I got to figure out how much power it provides. Stuart Hutchinson says those Terramaster products are certainly ugly. Yeah, the big handle, like it just is pretty ugly. You are correct. All right, so now if we jump over to the Mac screen here, so this does do power delivery. Great. you can see that it's not recognizing the disk. And what's interesting, though, is that it's finding 2, and it should not be finding 2 because we set it to RAID 0. So I don't know what that switch does, but let's go into disk utility here real quick, and let's see. Yeah, so look at this. It's showing up as 2 different drives. And it's like giving me the swirl of death here. Okay, so, and these were already formatted, but these are definitely showing up as 2. Now I have it on the back set to RAID 0, so we shouldn't, see, typically what you would have would be on the, see, you can have hardware RAID where it's managed on the device, or you can have software RAID that's managed by the operating system. Right now, it's presenting me 2 disks instead of 1. So let's see, and you see why I know it's 2 disks, because each of these is 240 gigabytes, and I have 2 different drives here, each 240. So I'm going to shut down, let's eject everything. And let me shut it down here and see what happens, because I'm trying to figure out why we're not seeing a single volume, unless I need to format these first. See, there's no manual here, so let's go, maybe what we'll do here is go to the website. Let's look up the manual and see if we can get some guidance on this. Give me a second, I just got to clear off my display here. Get rid of my conversations, or mute my Google Meet. I still use the Google Hangouts for all of my communication. That's how Jake and I communicate. He may go through his, all right, so I got to go to start Terramaster.com. Okay, so let's go to their website here and see if we can get some questions answered. And of course it's in Chinese. All right, so now we got to select the model number. This is the TD2 Thunderbolt Plus. Now I saw it up there, but that was just Thunderbolt. Here it is, this one. Okay, so we're going to go there and go to start. Okay, what you should know before starting. In any case, if you press and hold the reset button for 10 seconds, the data on the hard drives will be deleted. Oh my goodness. Really? This device may not be compatible with hard drives that have been used on other devices. Oh, okay. All right. So why don't we hit the reset button on it? And note, do not hold down the reset button for more than 10 seconds, because it'll wipe. Think that, like, somebody could walk into your office and just hold down the reset button. The reset button is in the back here. So I'm just going to disconnect it from the computer briefly. So the reset button is right here on the back. And they actually give you a little sim popper tool to hit that button there. So we're going to hit that reset for 10 seconds, and that might be what it needs to reset everything. 1, 1000, 2, 1000, 3, 1000, 4, 1000, 5, 1000, 6, 1000, 7, 1000, 8, 1000, 9, 1000, 10. Okay, so hit the reset button for 10 seconds. Now what? This device may not be compatible with hard drives that have been used on other devices. If you run into issues of this kind, please reformat the hard drives on this device. Before you turn off your device or disconnect it from power, be sure to eject it. Okay, that's our usual. All right, download the user manual. We will definitely do that. Install your hard drive, which we did. Connect the hardware, which we did. I don't need this because I have Thunderbolt already. Create the RAID. Okay, this is where we probably screwed up. Using a screwdriver, rotate the switch's pointer to your selected desired RAID mode. Using a pin, hold the reset button on your device for 10 seconds. This will allow you to, oh, okay. All right, so that's what happened, because even though we changed the switch position, it was default in single mode, which was why we saw 2 drives there. So what should happen here, when we reconnect the cable, is see what happens here. And I got some more chats coming through, so let's see what we missed. Soundman just bought a 10-core iMac. That's a monster. Trap Exit. are there any commercial products besides Unraid that offer file system pooling? I do not know. We'll have to try to find that. David Bound likes the PTO merch from the school because great gifts for family. Yeah, that was actually one good thing about the Square Art is that we had gifts for everybody that year. And I think we're probably going to do it again this year. It depends on how long we can keep the kids in school. That's really the big question. All right, so now I've reconnected. Aha, now we have, that's what we wanted. So now we've got a single drive here. So let's jump back. And we're going to go to initialize. And you know what I'm going to do also is I'm going to make some notes on this because reset after switch. Okay, so we're going to initialize now. And so now we should see 480. Perfect. That's what we need to do. And we're going to call this Terramaster. And I'm just going to format it. And the first thing we're going to do after this is done is we're going to run the Blackmagic disk speed test, which is what I always like to run first, and see what we get out of it. All right, so let's do that real quick. All right. Londog is saying, yep, he's right, we got to initialize the drives, and we just hit that reset button, and that seems to be what did it. Soundman says, this is what makes the WD Thunderbolt drives worth paying more for. No wacky reset wipe and a nice utility to manage the drive. I got to play with those WD Thunderbolts. I haven't seen those. So Anthony Biacco, I should have been more specific. I meant physical devices or full OS appliances like Unraid. Ah, that I am not sure about. I'll tell you what though, I've been playing around, and I'm going to do a video on this. So one of the things that I've been focusing on is the fact that I have this huge Synology device that has like terabytes of storage. And I'm paying for Google Drive, I'm paying for Apple iCloud, you know, but I never have enough space. iCloud, I've got 2 terabytes, which is plenty, but I can't easily, it doesn't work as nicely as like Dropbox does or something like that. And I liked Dropbox because it works very well, but the more I was thinking about it, it's like, do I really want another subscription when I could probably do this myself? So what I started playing around with was a whole bunch of different stuff on my Synology, and I've settled on a few things. The first thing I'm doing now is I'm using a utility called SyncThing, which is replacing what I was using Dropbox for, which is to synchronize so I have a folder that I keep all of my active projects on for, you know, things that I need a computer for, like the Patreon work that I do at the end of the month, for example, the school book, my file, all that kind of is all inactive. I like to keep my local because it's faster that way, right? And the other reason why I keep that stuff on the local drive, especially the QuickBooks file, is though I am now, I'd want to have that file with me and just keep it synchronized. So what I've been doing with Dropbox is that I have it basically syncing my active work folder between this laptop, my iMac, my little 12-inch Mac here, and that's it. So Dropbox has gotten, I was on the free plan because I didn't need that much space, and I was getting free space because I was giving away the giving people the invite code. So I had like 14 gigs on Dropbox, which is more than enough, and I was just using it for years. But then they said to everybody, all the freeloaders like me, you can only synchronize like 2 or 3 devices now at a time on the free plan. And that obviously was an effort to get rid of all of us freeloaders. So I'm like, well, I got this Synology, but I don't want to put the Synology in front of my firewall because I just don't want to leave that much stuff just accessible to the public internet. So SyncThing is awesome. It requires more configuration for each of these things that you set up, but it'll work, it'll do NAT traversal, and it's been working great. I've got everything synced up like I did before, and I have it syncing to, I have to set up this little MacBook still, but I have it syncing to this MacBook Pro, to my iMac over there. I'm going to sync up my PC upstairs with it soon, and then it's also syncing to the Synology NAS. Synology can run SyncThing also, and it all sits behind my firewall. Everything that's traversed is encrypted, so it's fairly safe. So I'm happy with that setup. So I'm starting there. And then the other thing I was looking at was the workflow that Jake and I do for moving video files back and forth. So what I've been doing is I prepare him a proxy file from Final Cut Pro, and typically each project is about 2 or 3 gigabytes in size. And I've been dropping those off on the Google Drive, and he downloads it from Google Drive, edits, and then puts back the finished project file that he's finished, and that's been working great. But I only have 30 gigs of storage on my Google Suite, and if I want more, I can pay for more, but every one of my users has to pay more also. So right now it's $5 a month per person. I've got 3 people on there. It's $15 a month. It would go to $30 a month, and I don't get unlimited because I'm under 10 people or whatever. So I'm like, well, I got this Synology thing. What could we do? So I've been messing around with Docker on the Synology NAS, and there's an OwnCloud Docker image, and I set that up, and that sits in its own little container. And you map, and I'm going to do a video on this, you map the container's mount folder, the MNT folder or directory or whatever, you point that at the local file system. So then when there's an update to the Docker file for OwnCloud, you just delete it and swap in a new one, and it just picks right up where it left off. It's great. And what's also nice about it is that Docker to some degree is a little isolated network of its own. So when I set up on the Synology was a reverse proxy through Cloudflare. So I have a little throwaway domain I was playing around with. I point the domain on Cloudflare to the Synology's 443 port. However, Cloudflare is going to act as a reverse proxy. So you turn on the caching on Cloudflare. So every time somebody connects to that throwaway domain name that I set up to connect to the OwnCloud, there's no direct communication between my server and the client. It all goes through Cloudflare, and Cloudflare is handling the TLS on it also. So it is sort of isolated on this end. We have the reverse proxy set up on the Synology, which has a built-in Nginx proxy, reverse proxy server, and it seems to work. So I'm just trying to figure out like what the security hole would be with that. So I might do a video showing you what I set up, and then you can all tell me how insecure it is. I think that's the plan. But I've been really digging the Docker thing, so that's been a lot of fun. So back to this. But I feel like I spent the whole weekend just playing around with this stuff, and I feel like I actually accomplished something. And OwnCloud is pretty good. What's nice about it is that I could set up a Dropbox folder. So if I had somebody that I wanted to get a file from, I could send them this address, and they can upload the file into the NAS for me. And then likewise, I can set up folders for Jake and for the client work that I do or whatever, and it's all in there. So that's going to be kind of fun. All right. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to start doing a lot of my own, like not a lot of self-hosting, but a little bit, especially when it's storage, because I have like terabytes on that thing in there. And then I'm using the IO safe that they sent me a while back. That thing's a monster. It's a fireproof and waterproof version of the 1019 NAS from Synology. So it's Intel based, and it's a monster. Okay, so we're going to set up the disk speed test here, and let's run it. So this is just now, we're connecting this with a single Thunderbolt cable to the computer. Right now this is powering the computer, and it's providing the Thunderbolt connection. So it does have power delivery. And we're getting 20 volts. I'm guessing it's probably going to be 60 watts, but the whole power supply, what's the power supply total on here? So the power supply total is 90 watts. So I'm guessing 30 watts could handle the hard drive and the controller and everything. So it's probably a 60 watt thing. Fan noise is not bad on it. It's a very low, you can hear the airflow. You don't really hear the fan, but it's not bad. So let's run the test here and see what we get. All right, so boom, let's start that off. And we're at the 34-minute mark. Okay. All right, so writes are 400 megabytes per second, and reads are about 575. And what they're saying on this is the max you're going to experience is about 700 megabytes per second on its best moment. And the reason is that these are SATA drives, so you're kind of limited there to begin with. And you're limited by whatever speed of the drives that you have. So we could probably squeeze a little bit more out on the reads, as you can see here. But that's what we're getting. And you're not going to get much more than this. So you're not going to see like NVMe-like speeds on this thing. but not bad. All right, now remember, we're running in RAID 0, so this is using the combined capacity and speed of these two drives because it's striping across as it's going here. Cedar Lake is here, hello. William Wilkinson wants to know, how much can it hold in terabytes? I think you can put in, I got to check that. Let's look for that real quick. I'm guessing whatever the largest drive you can find, it'll handle, but let's double check that. All right, I think that's good on the speed tests. All right, so the question is, what is the maximum amount of storage? So let's pull up the manual that we downloaded. Let's see what that might entail. All right. Terramaster user manual. Okay, here we go. Let's pull that up real quick and close all this stuff out. Okay, Terramaster manual. Appearance indicators, hardware installation, connection, RAID. Okay, yada, yada, yada. Gives you all the different things you got there. All right, hard drive installation. And does it say the maximum hard drive size? Let's see, let's go back. Maybe there's like a tech specs page here. That's all we get. That's all you get for the manual, folks, not much. So let's go to their website again and see if we can figure out what they've got. I was actually pleasantly surprised over the power delivery. That's cool. So I just don't know how much power we're getting. I'm just looking through here to see. All right, so let's go to Terramaster's website again and take a look here. Terramaster. Samian says, yeah, no real point. Yeah, you're not going to get much of a boost on the SSDs with this. And partly what's happened is that these NVMe drives have gotten so much faster that it's like, is it worth, is it worth even doing anything with SATA anymore? And I think in RAID world, you're going to see, you're still going to see more SATA SSDs because they're cheaper, and you can make them, you can have the provisioning on them to make them more roomy. All right, let's take a look here at the one we're got. Okay, so this is the product specs here. So, and I give them credit here that they're not saying you're going to get some crazy speeds out of this, because we all know that Thunderbolt can do far more than 800 megabytes per second, but they're not overselling this, which I think is good. So if you got drives that can hit that speed, you'll do it, but you won't necessarily get there. All right, so 40 gigabits per second. You can hook your displays up to it. The RJ45, which we're going to test in a minute. And it is not a NAS, so it's not going to be sitting on your network. This is the network interface is what gives your computer an Ethernet port. HD projection, daisy chaining, more storage space, their hardware RAID controller. Okay, so it will do up to 60 watts for the computer. That's what that's for. Give me a second here. I'm just going to make my Google Doc real quick so that I don't forget anything here. So it's a dock, but it's got storage, and that might be attractive to some people, right? Soundman says 32 terabytes max is the max on this one. Terramaster Thunderbolt TD2, yeah, let's say 3 direct attached storage. Let's call it a DAS. Not a NAS, but a DAS. And let's just make some notes here in a second. So we've got 60 watts, 60 watt PD, max 32 terabyte 2x16. All right. Now what I should do is test out some of the other stuff here. So what I'm going to do is go turn my iMac on over there, and we're going to load up my little iPerf testing thing that I like to use, and we'll test the Ethernet on it. So let's get the iMac booted up here. And I just need to get the IP address of the iMac. So it is 191. So I'll make some notes here for the IP address. Okay. And let me just see, they have a specification page here also, so let's pull that up real quick. Okay, so, and I think somebody already found this already, but here are the specs. 32 terabyte, 16 terabyte times 2. And we'll hook a monitor up to it in a minute too. The good news is that I don't think you'll see performance degradation on the storage when you're running the other things that this can do. So that there's some advantages to I think, setting expectations appropriately. All right, so I just connected up the LAN, and let's see if my Mac here switches over to that adapter. All right, it is connected. So let me jump over to this real quick, and I have to set the service order. This is one of these little tricks on the Mac that, so like I found on Windows that Windows will default to the Ethernet, but the Mac doesn't. So right now I'm still on my Wi-Fi as my primary connection. So we're going to set the service order, and what we're going to do is move, oh, you know what's funny? That it's showing up as a StarTech? Isn't that funny? And it's showing up as a USB Ethernet. Isn't that crazy? So we'll set the service order. Now that one is going to take priority over it. So whatever chipset they're using on the Ethernet is something that this Mac has seen before. So that's clever. Okay, so now I'm going to apply that. Now we're going to load up my Wi-Fi perf. And I'm just going to make note of the time on the video. We're about 42 minutes. Yeah, about 43. Wi-Fi perf. Okay, so now we're going to run an iPerf test over to the other computer here. So let's clear out some stuff here on the screen. And we're going to go to 2.191. And let's run that test. And we should see about 900 megabits per second or so if it's running at true gigabit speed. And it is. So now, let us see what impact the Blackmagic disk speed test will have running simultaneously to see if we see any reduction in performance as this is running. So I'm going to go back and point it at the Terramaster, and we'll hit start. And it's maintaining both. Let me reorganize the screen here a little bit to get it easier for B-roll purposes. So we're able to maintain the Ethernet connection at the same speed. We're not seeing any impact when we're running both things at the same time. I'm just going to let this go for a minute or two so I can have some B-roll that I can use later. And there's a comment here I see from Ikaranis about the fact that it's Thunderbolt and not running with USB only. And more PCs now are coming with Thunderbolt. I'm seeing it more and more. And we've seen like even like there's a low-cost Acer that we looked at recently. I think the Swift 3 had it. So you're going to see, especially as now the Thunderbolt spec is opened up, it's now going to be called USB 4 or whatever. You're going to see more of that happening, I think, in the future. All right, good. So that works. So I guess the other thing I may want to look at, can I run 2 instances of this speed test? There is a way, because what I want to do, let's see, look that up real quick, because what I want to do is hook up a USB disk to this. Mac run 2 instances, same app. I looked this up before. Okay. Oh, open N. Okay, so let's try that. So we're going to say open N applications, and I got to get the name of the app. Bear with me for 1 second, folks. Open in Finder. But so far, so good on this one. I mean, it's a nice little dock, right? I mean, you get power delivery. It's got storage built in. It's not very loud. It's simple. I mean, you're going to hear it. I mean, so if you don't like any fan noise at all, you're not going to want that. Okay, so let me just copy that. And what I'm going to do here, just to show you what I'm doing, is I'm going to run a second instance of the Blackmagic Disk Speed Test app. Nope, didn't find it. And that's because I screwed up. In quotation marks. And so now I'll have 2. I'm not sure how this will run, but we'll give it a shot. And the reason why I want to have 2 up is because I want to have one hitting the Thunderbolt drives and another one hitting the USB through the Thunderbolt to see if we have any reduction in speed. So let me go grab another drive real quick. Give me 1 second. I just got to run upstairs. And it's got to go upstairs and grab that drive real quick. Okay. So I am back down here. I'm just going to grab this cable out of my PC here. And we're going to just plug in. This is a drive that we got recently from Sabrent. And we'll see what happens. So everyone, just so everyone who's coming in late to this, this is not a NAS, even though it looks like one. It is a direct attached storage device, or a DAS, as they call them. And let me get the camera positioned here. And now what we're going to do is we are going to see how fast that USB port is on there. I'm expecting that it's going to run at USB 3.0 speeds. Now this is one of these NVMe drives, so this can go pretty quick. So I'm just going to go and select my Rocket Pro here. And we use this drive to transfer video files from the server to my editing station upstairs. So let's run this test now. That's not going very fast at all. There it goes. Ooh, that's pretty bad. That's like really bad. So it's reading faster. So something's going on with the write on this one. Because look how fast it read, but it didn't write all that quickly. What's that about? Now it could be because we have 2 instances running here. So let's close both of these out. And let me load it up again and see what happens if I do a direct connection. Oh, you know what it could be? No. Caching isn't the issue on these. The write speed is like super slow. I mean, that's like USB 2 write speed. It's just not quick at all. but the reads are like super fast. So I don't know if it's the drive. Like this drive writes faster than that. I've plugged it in directly. All right, so let's troubleshoot this now. So what happens? What's happening? So what we're going to try here, just to make sure that we can rule the drive out, is I'm going to connect this drive to the Mac directly and see what's going on with it. Because if it's slow when I run it on its own test, that'll be an indicator. So let's go and do that now. So now it's directly connected. Yeah, so that's what we should be getting for write speed. It could, you know, and I found too, sometimes some USB interfaces just don't like certain drives, but this little USB drive, that's what it does, about a gigabyte per second in both directions. Isn't that crazy? And this is a Gen 2 drive running over USB-C. So this is not a Thunderbolt drive, and that's why we were connecting it to USB on the back of that. Okay, so now we know what it's capable of. And let's try it again and see if maybe we had a glitch or something. So let's eject it. And again, it could just be that this drive doesn't like, or this USB interface doesn't like this particular drive, or it could be some other reason. So let's try it again. And let's see what happens. Okay, so we just switched it around. And let's take a look and go to, yeah, isn't that crazy? So Chris is asking, is it daisy chain? No, yeah, this is going through the USB interface on the dock. So I have, actually, I don't know where it is at the moment, but I have a Thunderbolt drive that I could connect to it. I don't think it likes this disk. I mean, that's not good, is it? And now everything's all like frozen up on it. Yes. All right, so we got to find another drive to connect to it. Let me go get one. The good news is that I have no shortage of storage here these days. I got more than I know what to do with. Let's see what I got over here. I have, oh, I got that Samsung T7. Let's try that one. Okay. Yeah, this is like totally freezing up on me here. So we're having some trouble with the USB interface, at least on the Mac. So let's, gosh, this is like all frozen up on me and everything. The good news is that nothing on this drive is unique to it. So God forbid it dies on me. I don't have, that's crazy. Like the application closed, but I still see it open here. I'm just going to pull the drive off. Okay, that did it. All right, let me just make sure this drive can remount. And I might plug it into Windows and have it do an analysis of it. And let's just make sure it still works. Uh-oh, there it goes. Rocket Pro is still here. Okay. All right. So we're good there. Okay, so we're going to pop that drive out. So it doesn't seem to like the Sabrent drive. So let's plug in the Samsung here. This is the T7. And let's see if it plays nicer with that one. Again, we're plugging this in via USB to the back to just test out the USB interface on this to see if what we can get for speed out of it. All right, so the T7 is connected. And what are we formatted as? This is exFAT. Okay. So if I have to plug it into the PC later, I could do that. All right, so let's load up the Blackmagic disk speed test again. And we're going to go and select the target drive. And we're going to select T7, open, start. Yeah, look at that, same problem. The writes are horrible. And the reads are fine. Isn't that terrible? What is going on with this? Oh, now it's picking up. Now that's weird, huh? I wonder if it's the cable. Maybe it doesn't like the cable. So let's see, now it's, that's so weird. Now it's like acting more normally. Now what you're seeing here is going through the USB interface. Isn't that odd? So now it's acting more like it should. Chris Allegretta says it might need a low-level format. Back in the old days, that's how we used to fix stuff, was low-level it. Yeah, that's okay, that's better. So now, what I want to do is load another instance of this. And let's see, why is it not remembering what I last put in? So let me go back to that web page I was on telling me how to do this. So I want to go to open N, and bear with me here, folks. Applications. And we're just going to go and summon up another instance of this. All right, there we go. Okay, so now we've got the second instance running. And what we want to do, now you can see, by the way, that this external USB drive is performing better than the internal drive on this thing. And that's because of the fact that this is, the SATA drive is kind of like an NVMe scenario. All right, so we're going to select the Terramaster. Yeah, the write speeds seem all over the place on this, because we were getting like super good write speeds a second ago, and now it's back down to its lousy megabyte per second there. Looks like somebody just came over. Oh, the FedEx guy is here dropping off more goodies. Cool. All right, so let's let that fester there for a minute. Now let's keep an eye on the read speeds here. What I got to do is get these tests to sync up so that it starts at the same time. So let me let the read go, and then we'll run it. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, this will be close enough. All right, so this is good. We got a good run where they're both kind of running at the same speed. Hey, see it take a dip there? Yeah, so the USB is impacted a little bit here. Because that was doing a little better on the reads before. All right, so let's let that run, and then we'll stop this. And we'll let it just kind of run on its own. So remember, 343 was where it was sharing the bandwidth. And now let's see what we get. Yeah, so you're seeing much better speed. So there's a little bit of shared bandwidth going on here, it looks like. So I wonder if the controller is like a USB SATA controller on this thing, because it looks like it's sharing some bandwidth. And with 40 gigabits, you should have more there. So we'll have to see what happens there. All right, well, it's good enough, I think, to get a good feel for it. And Kit Jacob, thank you for joining the channel as a member. Yeah, so I got to play around a little bit more, I think, with those Blackmagic speed tests there. Now, the other thing I want to do before I wrap up is connect up a 4K display and see if that has any impact on overall performance. So I'm going to hook up my display here real quick. I got my, what is this? This is a LG. I got this LG display not too long ago, actually about a year ago now, so it's been a little bit. Very reasonably priced. I forgot the actual price that I paid for it, but it wasn't, I think it was like 200 or something. It wasn't that expensive for a 4K monitor. And what I want to do is just make sure that we can get a 4K output through its display port. Because what's nice about these docks is that you have like a single thing you plug into, and that's all you need, and you're good to go. Get this out of there. Okay, so now let me show you what I'm doing here. So we've got a 4K display. That's our 4K display right there. And we're going to take out this cable. Now, this is a mini DisplayPort to DisplayPort cable. And I'm going to just plug in to the DisplayPort output on the back. And then we're going to run this into the monitor, into its DisplayPort input. Done. Okay, so now what should happen is our Mac should recognize that there's a display attached. And the big question is, do we get a 4K 60 output to it? And let's have a look. So here we are. Now I'm running like 3 different displays at the moment, so what I'm going to do for safety is disconnect the NDI. And the reason why I'm saying for safety is not for any physical reason. It's just that sometimes when I connect 4K 60 up to this NDI box, it resets my vMix thing. So I'm just going to err on the side of caution, and I'm going to put this adapter back where I found it. Okay, so now the good news is it is outputting video. So now we're going to go and hit the display here, and we're going to default for display. Yeah, the problem is it's often not, oh, that's because I disconnected that before. So I just want to make sure that I'm getting the actual 4K image out of this thing, and I forgot how to do that. Hang on a second here. Hold on the option. There we go. Okay, so let's move this up to, let me zoom in a little bit here so you can see what I'm seeing. Now this is coming out of the DisplayPort output on this. So this is not like some dongle or anything. We're just hooking it up direct. So we're going to go to 3840 by 2160, and we're good there. And let's see if we go default. Okay, that seems to be working. So now I want to know if I am getting, it looks like it's going at 4K. But usually there's a way to get the hertz that it's running at. I just want to make sure we're at 60 hertz. Let me check and see if the monitor can give me that information. Menu. I have a display that does tell you this stuff, but this one doesn't seem to be telling me that information that I'm looking for. Okay, so, I mean, it's definitely at 4K. I just don't know what frame rate it's at. Okay, so let's go into this real quick. I'm just going to look up something real fast here just so I can get the get hertz. Okay, how to change the refresh rate. On the Apple icon, System Preferences, Display, hold down the Option key and click Scale to reveal refresh rates. Okay, so I'm doing that, but it's not giving me refresh rates, just resolution. Now it's interesting, if I go to 1080, it's definitely scaling this up, but I don't know what hertz I am at. Let me gather these windows here and see if it will. It's definitely scaling it. So it's at a 1080p size, but it's giving me that. And if anyone in the chat remembers how to get that info as to what hertz we're at. It's definitely scaling up. I think it feels like 60, but you know, sometimes sometimes it doesn't tell me the right thing. I think there might be a way to get the info to show up in the show mirroring options in the menu bar when available. Yes, I'm not getting the hertz on this one. Yeah, so I found with the Mac is it feels like it's 60. It doesn't feel not 60 to me, if that's a proper... Okay, here we go. Now I got it. Now I got it. So we are at, and this is what's crazy about Apple. So we're not actually running at 1080p. We're running at 4K, but it is scaling it to a 1080p size. Everything is nice and sharp on it. So I'm getting what I'm expecting. And now I'm running at just native 4K 60 hertz, and it's working. So that's good. So let's go back to that 1080p scaled mode, because what I want to do now that I'm running 4K video over to it is I want to run that disk speed test one more time just to make sure that we don't lose any bandwidth here. So let's do that real quick, and then I got to wrap up and pick up my kid at school. So let's do this, and I'm going to move this over real quick. And we're going to select the target drive, and we'll go back to the Terramaster, open that up, and we'll hit start. And we should be seeing, yeah, no impact on performance. I wouldn't expect that. It does, though, appear, like I said, that it's sharing, the controller on this thing is sharing some bandwidth with the USB ports, which leads me to suspect that perhaps the controller is a USB controller. And there's a way to find that out. So let's do one last thing here. I'm going to go into About This Mac, into our system information. And I should see, I'm just looking through the, yep, here we go. Okay, so 4-port USB hub, Terramaster. Yeah, okay, here, check this out. So, let's let that zoom in here for a second. So it's, you know, it's a Thunderbolt bus, but the devices here are coming off of the USB. So what we got here is a USB hub inside the device. And you can see the T7 here is connected at, okay, so the T7, so the good news is, there's some good news and bad news here. The good news is that it looks as though the USB port on this thing is a Gen 2 port, which means it's a 10 gigabit per second port. How do I know that? Well, I know that because it's telling me right here, up to 10 gigabits per second. And then I'm also seeing that my T7 here is connecting at 10 gigabits per second. If we go up a level, you can see the very first connection here. You know, so we've got the 10 gigabits on this sucker, so that's good. And I'm just going through the rest of these here to make sure I'm missing anything. So that's what you got there. That's the drive. This is the LAN, again, coming off of that internal USB hub on there. And then this is the drive controller. So you're sharing that USB bandwidth internally. So it's not technically a Thunderbolt drive. This is a USB drive connected to a Thunderbolt bus, if that makes sense, or a Thunderbolt controller. So that is very interesting. Okay, well that gives us some idea as to what we've got here. So I'm guessing that was a cost measure. But that's what we got. That is very intriguing. Okay, cool. Well, I think I've got everything I was setting out to do so far on this, so I'm very, very happy with that. Let me pull up the shot of what I got here on the desk, and then I got to get going here because I got to go pick the kid up. And I think this thing's ready to, just got to put some notes together on this, and I can probably shoot my review later today, which is great. So you can check out what it looks like there. Very cool. All right, so I'm just going to disconnect all this stuff from here. Yeah, so we're having some trouble with the USB port on it, and it could be because it's sharing the bandwidth maybe, I don't know, but you know, we saw that the write speeds were kind of off on it. So I am going to try another cable just to rule that out, but this cable, I use this cable all the time to write video out from this video production machine I've got here, so interesting. All right. I hope I'm not missing any chats here. The chat window is 130 of you watching. Usually you're chattier than this, so I'm not sure if maybe my chat window got delayed here, but it looks like we're all on track there. Okay. Okay. Well, everybody, I got to run here in a minute, but it looks as though I got to eject this. Now, the other thing you got to remember to do is you have to properly eject this when you want to move it. So otherwise, you're going to have a risk of data loss there. But I did do the eject already. So yeah, I mean, as a dock, it's not bad. I mean, it costs the same as other docks. It delivers power, 60 watts. You've got not a lot of ports back here. Let me turn it off real quick, and I'll show you again in case you missed the beginning. Power it down here. And you all know I love docks, so this is why I like to look at this stuff. So you got your two USB ports. You got your RAID switch here. You have your gigabit Ethernet. Again, this is for the computer, it's not a NAS. You have display port out, so you can, as we just did, we ran 4K out to a display, and you still have another Thunderbolt daisy chain here that you could run out further. So altogether, not a bad little direct attached storage device. So yeah, that's it. So I will be back again soon with another live stream, maybe as early as tomorrow. And you know, whenever I have time, I pop on and do these things. So that's that. And you can follow me by clicking the bell, or you can go over to my Amazon page, Lon.TV/Amazon shop. And you can follow me, and then you'll get notified through the Amazon app, because you can watch this on Amazon. And when I'm talking about stuff, I can pull it up on the little Amazon app so you can see exactly what I'm referring to at that moment. So good stuff. All right. Ozcan, I'll take one more question here. Ozcan was wondering about this or the Synology DS218 Plus. Well, here's the big thing. First of all, I have tried the Terramaster NAS devices. The Synologies are better, but they're just better. The software is better. This is not a NAS. This is a direct attached storage device, even though it looks like a NAS. So this will connect to your computer via Thunderbolt, and it's just storage, and then a few other ports. So I would say if you're in the market for a NAS, the 218 Plus is pretty good. But I think they have a new one that just came out. I got some stuff from them. I got to go back and look at their devices. So we're going to do some more with Synology in a little bit. All right. Well, I'm going to take off and go pick my kid up at school, one of the two kids, and I will be back very soon, and hopefully I'll have some time today to shoot the review for this thing. And I've got B-roll. Perfect. What more could you want? All right, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to say goodbye to the Amazon folks. Thank you for watching. And I'm going to say goodbye to all of my friends on YouTube right now. And I will be back again soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.